Verbal or life.
Washington, as global events put a spotlight on new incoming leadership in America. The government of Syria collapsing this weekend, with rebels storming the capital in Damascus Saturday night, sending President Bashar al-Assad fleeing the country, and his family dictatorship that ruled Syria for more than 50 years ending this weekend. All of this while President Trump is in Paris meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron for the reopening of France's majestic Notre Dame Cathedral, while conducting a sideline meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky, who later called the talks with Trump to end the war in Ukraine productive. As Trump
is not even the president yet, and he's already making a scene worldwide. Look at him over at the church. This is crazy. But let's take a look. My name is Noel, battling MS. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and find it informative. Let's take a look at Sunday Morning with Maria Bartiromo. Oh, and remember, before you go anywhere, give this video a like.
foreign and domestic agenda takes shape 43 days before Inauguration Day. Incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune is reportedly floating a non-tax cut bill to be passed before April 30th that includes up to $85 billion earmarked for border security and new energy permitting, leaving the extension of President Trump's tax cuts planned for later in 2025 as part of a potentially second reconciliation plan, despite incoming Trump officials promising tax cuts to be a priority early on. Here's Treasury Secretary nominee Scott Bessent with me the day before the November election on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business. Scott, real quick, if you are a member of the economic team there in President Trump's cabinet, what would be your number one or first priority in January?
Well, Maria, whether I'm on the inside or the outside, the extending or making permanent the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is the priority.
Yeah,
because if it doesn't happen, this will be the largest tax increase in U.S. history. And I think we're going to unleash animal spirits when President Trump and the Republicans win tomorrow. Then we've got to make this permanent, and we'll give the business and households the confidence to really get on a glide path into the next 4 years.
So it sounds like they got to do the tax cut. Trump got to get in office and get this done as soon as possible.
Joining me now in the Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty on the Senate Foreign Relations, Banking, and Housing and Urban Affairs Committees. Senator, it's wonderful to have you this morning. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Maria. It's great to be with you this morning.
I'm going to get back to the tax cuts in a moment, but we have to begin on Syria. President Trump tweeted out, put a post on Truth Social yesterday, and he writes this: Russia and Iran are in a weakened state right now, one because of Ukraine and a bad economy, the other because of Israel and its fighting success. I know Vladimir well. This is his time to act. China can help. The world is watching. Give us your sense of what took place in Syria over the weekend and how this fits into President Trump's incoming foreign policy, sir.
Well, what we've seen is a 53-year regime of the Assad family completely collapse in the space of 13 days. This wouldn't have been possible had Israel not taken its own best interest to heart and take out Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. That set off a series of activities that actually brought us to this point. Again, this was against the recommendation of the Biden administration. And to put a finer point on it, Maria, just this week, after Hama fell, and it was obvious that everything was moving toward Damascus, that Syria was going to fall, that Assad would be out, the Biden administration was working back channel, trying to relieve sanctions on Assad, trying to normalize relations with Syria. This is how out of touch, back into play. He's already built the architecture. His allies in the region, America's allies in the region, know how to use this architecture to help rebuild Syria in a much more positive way. We can facilitate that with solid diplomacy, but our allies in the region are in the place to actually build this and redo this, and I think they're best positioned to help bring, again, peace and stability to the region. The Biden administration, the Obama administration were so off base trying to create pillars of stability with, get this, with Iran, and with Syria, with the JCPOA, and with...
And it's crazy because these are politicians that have been in the game for years. They've been doing this for a long, long time, so they should know better. Instead, they just mess things up. It's unbelievable that a non-politician, who is now the best politician ever, Trump, is able to go in there and fix things. Like, yo, my man, let's make some sense out of this. Man, unbelievable.
Their attempts to normalize Syria, the right place to start are President Trump's Abraham Accords. That's the foundation. Those can be used in the region. That's how we'll see peace and stability break out.
President Trump spoke with Zelensky as well as President Macron in France this weekend. What are your expectations for the war on Ukraine as well as the war?
The Harris administration has just been extensive. And it's not just here in America. It's not the pain we're feeling here, the fact that 72% of Americans think our country's on the wrong track. It's being felt around the world. The Biden-Harris administration has put us in a far more unstable place. President Trump has been clear. He wants to see an agreement reached between Ukraine and Russia immediately. He wants to see that settled. Those discussions perhaps are already underway. You certainly see Zelensky coming to meet with President Trump this weekend in Paris. I think the opportunity is before us to get this resolved. With respect to Israel, Israel's done an incredible job dealing with Hamas, dealing with Hezbollah. They've been allowed.
And look at Zelensky not wearing a tie, just showing up with a regular shirt, a regular sweater. So disrespectful. I can't wait till he moves on in life and Trump just gets away from him, because just disrespect on a whole nother level.
To do, again, despite the Biden administration's recommendations, they've been allowed to step up and do what they are capable of doing. Yeah. And the result has been a massive weakening of the sword of Damocles that has been over Israel for years, for decades, and that is Hezbollah. Hezbollah has been taken out.
Senator, let me move on to domestic policy. We're going to speak with Stephen Miller coming up in just a moment, Deputy Chief of Staff there at the White House. But I want to get your take on why the Senate is pushing the tax extension plan all the way to later in the year. Does this mean you all are planning two different reconciliation packages? I understand John Thune wants between $60 and $85 billion for the border wall, ICE deportations, and new energy permitting reforms, and putting the tax bill to extend those tax cuts sunsetting following that. You know, Jason Smith, the chairman of House Ways and Means and the House side, does not want this. He wants the first bill geared toward taxes. What's the plan and why?
Well, the tax bill is an incredibly high priority for us. If it's not fixed this year, it's going to be more than $4 trillion worth of incremental taxes added to the backs of Americans. It's going to be a terrible impact on the economy, and we've got to see our economy strengthen and grow. That's what everyone expects from President Trump. It is a top priority. I've heard the talk about getting these other priorities underway. They're smaller, they're easier fixes. We've got to go look at the process. I'm willing to work through the weekends, whatever it takes, to get this, all of this done as soon as possible.
But how tough is it going to be to do a second reconciliation? I mean, you don't need a reconciliation plan for the border, right? Look, Americans just voted overwhelmingly to put President Trump back in the White House, largely because of that border and inflation. Why waste reconciliation on the border? You don't need it there. Do you need it for the tax extension?
You definitely need it for the tax extension, but there are legislative elements of what's going on at the border right now that we need to stop. So there are aspects of it that would all benefit from a reconciliation package, whether we bring it together in one large one, which I would be fine doing, or if there's a path. And again, I'm just not clear on how we can get this done, but it needs to be done as quickly as possible, whether it's
one at a time. Are they going to do the border or tax cut? One at a time. So let's go with the border first. We got to get all the illegals out of here.
One or two. Again, my preference would be to do it all at one time as quickly as we possibly can.
So you would consider, do you think, is there a reason John Thune doesn't want to do it all together, that he's putting the extending of the tax cuts all the way at the end of next year?
I'm certain what he's doing right now is working with Russ Vought, the OMB, the people at the White House, the Budget Committee, to make certain that we have all the necessary pieces in place to achieve this effectively. The reconciliation tool should be available to us twice, but again, I'd like to see this done as quickly as possible. The momentum is behind President Trump right now. The American public has spoken. Again, we need to be doing this post-haste, and I'm happy to be here as long as it takes.
Senator, real quick, in terms of Treasury and the role there, there's also a big role for sanctions. Do you have any recommendations on whether or not new sanctions should be added to any of our adversaries right now as this administration begins work?
The number one priority for incoming Secretary Bessent has got to be enforcing the sanctions that are already on the books. There's no end to my frustration with Secretary Yellen, who has told me in committee that, yes, they've imposed even more sanctions on Iran. I remind her, it doesn't matter if you put sanctions in the books, you must enforce them. They stopped enforcing sanctions on Iran the day they came into office. Rob Malley is gone now under FBI investigation, but he was the architect of this non-enforcement of sanctions, again, trying to.
And that's the big problem. They do nothing. And now it's all, everybody can see that it's a problem, that they do nothing. Hey, man, I can't wait to get Trump back in.
Appease Iran. What they did was fund terror throughout the region. So we need to enforce what's on the books first and foremost.
Very good. Senator, great to talk with you. Thanks very much. Bill Haggerty joining us this morning in Tennessee. Thank you, sir. Now, President Trump's first priority when taking office, securing the border.
Yep.
You know, these are people who love our country and they're participating in our country. Those who are here committing crimes, robberies, shooting at police officers, raping innocent people, have been a harm to our country. I want to sit down and hear the plan on how we're going to address them. Yep. Those are the people I am talking about. And I would love to sit down with the border czar and hear his thoughts on how we're going to address those who are harming our citizens.
We're going to get a better country, a safer country.
And that's New York City Mayor Eric Adams hoping to meet with incoming Trump administration border czar Tom Homan as he gets ready to deport illegal criminals from America. Joining me now is the man himself, incoming U.S. border czar Tom Homan. Tom, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. First, your reaction to what you're hearing from Mayor Adams, wanting to meet with you now. A bit of a 360 there, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm pleased. I'll be meeting with him Thursday, and I hope we can partner on making New York City a safer community. President Trump's been clear we're going to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. So I'm not surprised that Mayor Adams coming to the table, because I think his number one responsibility is protecting his communities. I'm shocked at other mayors and other governors who want to put roadblocks up. I can't believe any elected official does not want to remove public safety threats from their communities, but we're going to do it with them or without them. We're going to get this done.
Tom, we just saw this report from the New York Post that said that 58,000 illegal criminals are running around in New York right now, and that they've already been convicted of crimes. Tell me about that group. Is that correct? 58,000 people who are gang members, many of whom belong to this gang, Tren de Aragua, who is incredibly dangerous in New York right now, and another hundreds of thousands of them throughout America?
Yeah, but the number's low. Like we only know what we have reports on, we have information on. Remember, a lot of these sanctuary cities, when they book a foreign national in their jail, many of these sanctuary cities don't even ask them their nationality in fear that ICE will get their hands on information. So you can guarantee there's at least 58,000 and more. And as far as Tren de Aragua, they're going to be a major priority of the Trump administration. President Trump has made that promise, and we'll be concentrating on them right out of the gate. Them, MS-13, and other criminal elements.
Yep. Tell me how you're going to do this, Tom. What's the plan? Are you expecting to use the military to round up these people? How will you get them out of the country?
Yeah, release the military to send them out. Go into schools, go into daycare center, and just pull everybody out back to your country.
Well, first of all, I want to make something clear to exactly what we're going to do for all these sanctuary cities pushing back. San Diego's writing legislation. You got Colorado and other states and other cities saying they're going to prevent us doing what I'm doing. I want to send them a clear message. If you let us in the jail, we can arrest a bad guy in the jail, in the safety and security of a jail. One officer could do that. Yeah. But when you release a public safety threat back in the community, you put the community at risk, you put my officers at risk, you put the alien at risk. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to release that guy in the community, I'm going to send an entire team to go look for the guy in your community. And what's going to happen? We'll find that guy. And when we find that guy, there's probably going to be others that are not a priority. However, if they're in the country illegally, they'll be arrested too, because we're not going to tell an immigration officer like this Biden administration did that you're going to turn your back on known immigration illegal. When you're an immigration officer, you have an oath to uphold. So you are forcing us into community at large numbers where other non-priority aliens will be arrested. That's a result, the exact result you don't want. So let us in the jail. It's safer for everybody, and it's the right thing to do to security communities. What we're going to do, Mary, we're going to target, like I say, public safety threats, national security threats. We're going to send agents out on day one. We're already working on targeting. DOD, they've helped every administration. We would like DOD to help us in a lot of areas in transportation, and infrastructure building, intelligence, and targeting. But a sworn immigration officer with immigration authority will be making those arrests.
Yeah, I mean, you know what's great about the incoming administration is that all of you are on the same page. So you can be grabbing resources, I assume, and conversations from, like you said, defense, intelligence to actually get the job done. Is that right? Are you coordinating on a whole of government officials throughout different agencies to ensure that you can secure the border and send these illegal criminals back?
Absolutely. I've been working very closely with Steve Miller. Steve Miller was the architect of the first Trump administration with unprecedented success. We're talking about bringing everybody to the game, other law enforcement agencies, DOD. I had to shut down my LinkedIn account because I got thousands of retired ICE agents, retired Border Patrol agents, retired police officers, retired military that want to come and do this job and make America safe again. There'll be no lack of resources. But as your first segment was talking about, we need the money. We need the money to have more detention beds and more underground transportation and to conduct these operations. So I'm hoping the Hill see the light and give us the money we need to keep President Trump's promise, the mandate the American people gave him, and secure this nation, secure the border, and remove the illegal aliens from this country who are not supposed to be here. Even though we got a prioritization on public safety threats and national security threats, I want to be clear. If you're in the country illegally, you got a problem, especially if you're a fugitive. The head due process at great taxpayer expense. Your order removed by a federal judge. You went into hiding? No, we're going to be looking for you too. So this is going.
We got all these illegal migrants skipping the line, breaking the law, and then getting all these benefits from the government. I can't wait till Trump finish the war and get all these people out of here. Go make the line like everybody else did.
It'll be a huge operation. I'm looking forward to getting it started. I haven't started the operation yet, but I've already worked with the Texas governor on the plans and Texas borders are. I'm working with Mayor Adams. I met with hundreds of sheriffs the other day. The National Sheriff's Association is ready to go to work with us. So January 20th, game on.
So game on is right. Look, how much money do you need? Stephen Miller said that he told me you need between $80 and $100 billion for the border alone. Do you believe you're going to need reconciliation for that? Can you just get that in January or February to conduct what you need to conduct?
Well, $86 billion a minimum. We're going to need as much money as Congress can get us because, look, right now what they're doing, they spent billions of dollars on releasing illegal aliens in this country, billions of dollars to NGOs to put an alien in a hotel room at $500 a night when we got empty ice beds, $127 a night. They're getting 3 hotel rooms, 3 meals, free medical care. What they're spending right now, the billions of dollars in perpetuity. This operation is going to be expensive to begin with, but in the long run, there's going to be huge tax savings for the American taxpayer.
Yes, of course, and life-saving. Tom, real quick, I've been to the border at least 5 times. I saw up close and personal how these young kids are being used, exploited by the drug cartels, making believe they're part of a family when they don't even know the kids. We saw pieces the other day where a 2-year-old was apprehended, a 10-year-old was apprehended. What happens in terms of the drug cartels and their business? They use kids to get them through the border, and then do they force them to pay money to the drug cartels while they're living in America? How does it work?
Absolutely. We had over 500,000 children trafficked in this country, smuggled in this country by criminal cartels. This administration can't even find 340,000 of them that they released to unvetted sponsors. And we're going to try to find these kids and rescue them. But you're exactly right. Many of these kids are in forced labor to pay off their smuggling fees, which they'll never pay off. And many are in forced sex slavery. So President Trump is committed to finding these children. We got to do it and save these children and get them back to their families. We'll let the immigration consequences follow that. But we got to save many of these children who are living a day of hell every day because this administration let them come in the country at a 500,000 number and they release them to unvetted sponsors, which we're going to find out. Many of them are predators. Many of them are traffickers and forced labor syndicates. So this is another rail of priority President Trump has promised the American people.
Unbelievable.
You know, I think a lot of people online like to complain about the fact that Trump is doing something about the illegal and how it's unfair. But I really want to see all those blue sanctuary cities take in all these illegal migrants, because that's just going to raise the crime levels of all these illegal criminals that are going to be committing crimes. And then they're going to look at the rest and say, wait a minute, how come only the rest are getting the money from the government, are getting the support from the government, and are getting all the help from the government? So we are living in some crazy time, but I really want to see what the safety cities and what the blue states do when they see the truth, that they cannot have all these illegal migrants. It's a waste of money. It's anti-human. And we got to get them out of here. Let's keep listening.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for your work. We will be watching your work closely. We appreciate your time this morning, sir.
Thanks for having me.
We know you have a huge job ahead. Tom Homan. Quick break, and then Joe Biden. Agencies like President Trump has talked about the Department of Education, for example. Are you going to be closing down departments?
We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force in areas of the federal government that are bloated. We expect massive cuts among federal contractors and other.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So either they're going to do it now or never. It has to happen now, because otherwise these politicians, they want to keep everything open and they want to keep just making money.
Who are overbilling the federal government. So yes, we expect all of the above. And I think people will be surprised by, how quickly we're able to move with some of those changes.
Yep.
And that was the incoming co-head of the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, Vivek Ramaswamy, with me here a few weeks ago. Joining me now with more on President Trump's upcoming agenda is incoming White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor, Stephen Miller. Stephen, it's great to have you this morning. Congratulations to you. We're very interested in hearing about the road ahead. Let me start off with the conversation I just had with Bill Hagerty, and that is about the priority of border and energy, putting tax extension later in the year. Walk us through the thinking, and if you, in fact, believe that is how this takes place.
Well, I think the plan is to put both on a fast track. First, you can get John Thune and Lindsey Graham have promised that they can get a full funding package for the border, the most significant border security investment in American history, which would be the biggest domestic policy win in at least 50 years, to the president's desk in January or early February. That would mean a massive increase in ICE officers working on the deportation operation that Tom Homan just laid out. That would mean a historic increase in border agents, a pay raise for both, full funding for military operations, full funding for ICE beds, full funding for air and marine operations, full funding for all of the barriers and technology that you need to ensure there's never another Godaway entering this country. Now, President Trump, regardless, on day one is going to issue a series of executive orders that seal the border shut and begin the largest deportation operation in American history. But you're talking about what would be the largest investment in immigration and border security. This is something the Republicans have been talking about for decades, but with
everything that Trump does is the largest, the biggest deportation, the biggest tax cut, the biggest everything. Man, it needs to be seen so we know what the hell he's talking about.
Donald Trump, this is something that is going to happen. It will be the most important and significant, as I said, domestic policy achievement in half a century. Then the plan, as Senator Thune has laid out, as incoming Majority Leader Thune has laid out, would be to move immediately at that point. Now we're talking in January, early February, immediately to the comprehensive tax reform package. That's where you have to figure out SALT, right? The state and local deductions. That's where you're going to figure out about different policy baselines that you're going to use for the tax cuts, about corporate tax reform, about trade reform, manufacturing reform, and all those tax policies. And with the 2 or 3 seat majority in the House, obviously, that's going to take some time. So this isn't nobody, I repeat, nobody is even talking or considering delaying tax. What the Senate has talked about doing is giving the president, within a week or two of taking the oath of office, the most significant domestic policy achievement in at least 50 years.
Woo!
Our Border Patrol, our ICE officers, and every element of our domestic security operation will be fully funded to take down the cartels and eradicate the criminal gang threat in this country once and for all.
Yeah.
Tax reform will happen. It will happen.
Well, he said they're going to be fully funded. So they're going to spend millions of dollars to get these people out. No more spending billions on hotel rooms and giving them medicine and shelter and food. No. Now we're going to take that money and spend it on deporting all these people. Thank God.
Happen, and it will be the greatest tax bill that we've ever seen. Now, these are not final. These are ongoing discussions and negotiations. But I just want to be very clear that no one's talking about delaying tax reform. What they're talking about doing is before government funding expires in March, before the debt ceiling expires in June, just days after he puts his hand on that Bible, giving President Trump the biggest domestic policy win that anybody has seen in our lifetimes, Maria.
Yeah, I understand that. And I know nobody knows more about immigration than you. And nobody knows more about these threats than you. And of course, Tom Homan as well. So I appreciate what you're saying and I appreciate your work. But Stephen, is there any way that or risk that you believe is out there that if you wait until later in the year to extend those tax cuts in a separate reconciliation package, you're already doing one reconciliation package earlier in the year. If you wait for a second reconciliation in the end of the year, do you believe that there's risk that that doesn't happen?
No, there's zero risk of that for a few reasons. And again, these are ongoing conversations and discussions, Maria, so nothing's even remotely final yet. But there's zero chance of that because, as you know, the tax cuts expire this year. And there's not a chance in the entire world, they expire in the fall, that Republicans are not going to fully extend and expand the Trump tax cuts. There's absolutely zero chance of that. And we're going to have more members a few months from now than we do right now. And you're not just going to have tax cuts, but you're going to have other fiscal reforms that members badly want. You're going to have energy reforms, maybe additional border reforms. But the very important point in all of this is that with the current size of the majority in the House, there isn't a proposal to pass taxes in February. That's going to take some period of time. Remember, the Trump tax cuts in 2017 were passed in December of that year. We can significantly beat, by the way, that record, significantly beat it. And when President Trump comes into office right away, he's going to fully deregulate the energy market, fully deregulate the financial market, fully deregulate this economy. You're going to get a jolt of job growth and job creation and inflation relief from his deregulatory agenda, unlike anything anyone has ever seen.
I think everybody should be pumped up or is pumped up about Trump coming in. Like, we are done with the current administration. They're just making us sick, making us broke, helping everybody else but us. So we all can't wait, man. This is going to be some great time. We get to, you know what? I'm going to try to report every day on it and just celebrate all the great things that the Trump administration is doing. Let's talk about it.
Before.
Yeah,
but it's really important to underscore that what John Thune is talking about is not delaying anything. In fact, when you have a massive win, when you've delivered the American people the biggest, most important, most comprehensive border package in history, just days after he takes the oath of office, that kind of momentum, that kind of teamwork and team building will speed the delivery of tax reform. But again, whether we do it in one track or two tracks, remember, Democrats did 2 reconciliation bills.
Yeah.
The president is going to get his agenda enacted through Congress, and it will be historic.
Real quick, Stephen, before you go on foreign policy, what are President Trump's priorities going into office less than 50 days away as we watch Syria collapsing, as we watch Ukraine wanting a ceasefire deal, and, of course, China on the march?
Well, obviously, the events that are unfolding in Syria are a massive setback for Russia, a massive setback for Iran. As the president has said, we don't want anything to do with governing the fractious nightmare that is Syria. And obviously, we have to have strong immigration controls, to my earlier point, to make sure that nobody from that hellhole that is unfolding right now that has negative or murderous intentions enters the United States. But this just puts more pressure on the regime in Iran to enter a more peaceful phase, and it puts more pressure on Russia to enter into a ceasefire. President Trump's priority, as he's outlined, is going to be peace in the region.
Okay.
All right. So 43 days when Trump takes office. I think everybody's pumped up. Everybody's feeling positive about it. And right now, before even Trump goes into office, he's already going around the world. And every time he does anything or takes the center stage, it becomes like the news, the main news. What is Trump doing? But ever since he was running for president, I always said it. I hope he gets in. Now that he's in, I hope he makes the changes that he's promising. And he's doing a lot of things. The Republican Party is no longer the normal Republican Party. That man just turned it into the Trump mega party. So that means after he's done with these 4 years, the Republicans that are left got to figure out how to continue that momentum, how to continue that MAGA movement. But we live in some crazy times. And you just heard right there all the promises that Trump is making, that he's going to push forward and he's going to try to do with the illegal migrants, with the tax cuts. All great information, because in the deregulations, those 3 things, man, if you could do those 3 things, oh man, it's time to celebrate. But you know what? My name is Noel, Battling MS. Thank you for joining me over here to try to bring you the news and give you guys information. Hopefully you enjoyed the video good enough that you can give this video a like. I'm trying to grow this channel little by little. The trick to life is never give up. I'm battling MS. I can still walk and talk and move my hands. So I'm going to keep going as long as I can. With that said, I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.